record. Perfect.
You can now.
Yeah, I can now. Thank you.
Okay. But I say, if we can perhaps keep an eye on the green room for anybody who's late. But apart from that, right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Quite a full house, and welcome back from summer holidays. Hope we're all well. Peter's already asked that question, but there were a few less people when he first asked how we all were, so we all look pretty healthy, so that's good. So thanks for joining us. We've got quite a full agenda, so hopefully we can crack on with that. So the first item, 2147, is to receive any apologies for absence and declarations of interest. We have received no apologies. No
apologies.
Okay. And I'm going to declare an interest as a common right holder, which might pop up later on. And
I would do the same.
Okay, Anne as well. Thank you. Okay, so we can then go on to comments and observations from members of the public, and to receive reports from the County and District Councillor. Now, we haven't got a District Councillor or a County Councillor, so we needn't worry about that. But I can now open the meeting to the public. Does anybody wish to say anything? Hands up. Andy?
Yeah, a couple of these, Graham.
Okay, yeah.
On item 65, discuss the to encourage all villagers to lobby the County Council for the experimental traffic order regulation. This is an excellent idea. I hadn't heard of it before, and having done a bit of background reading, if there's any chance of getting that through, it would be an excellent step along the way to getting a full-time ban there. So I would absolutely want to encourage that, and I will offer any help I can to get the village to maximum lobby the council. If we can get a clear plan together of exactly what it is we want to do, what we want to say, very much in support of that. It's a shame it didn't go to the traffic working group beforehand, but let's get on with it now, which is good. And a very quick comment on the second, my second comment is about the pizza idea for the Village Hall car park. In principle, I think it's a great idea to get some more activity into the village, and certainly support for the youth here. I understand it's been successful in Camborne. The questions I would like to raise, and I know the Village Hall Committee do as well, the other usual ones are when, how often would it be there? Would the company take some responsibility for making sure that any rubbish is cleared up around it that might be generated from it, and make sure that whether or not it clashes with Village Hall activities and events, that maybe there's some pre-discussion or some liaison that needs to take place with the Village Hall Committee to make sure there aren't any big clashes, because that car park could be very full, as you could appreciate, for that happening. But apart from that, as soon as we've got all the detail, I'd like to support that.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, I shall then close the meeting.
Sorry, if I may.
Oh, yeah. Hi. Yes.
Sorry. Hello, I'm Sam. I'm the owner of 400 Degrees. So if it's all right, do you mind if I just answer those questions quickly before you start?
It's okay, isn't it, Nicola?
Yeah, it's regarding an agenda
item. Yeah, far away.
Yeah, so it's just on sort of item 60. It's just totally taking responsibility for basically the environment around us. I'm a sole trader, and as you say, sort of done quite a lot in Camborne, and it's very much a community-based thing, sort of like everything that we do, because if we're not part of the community don't support us if we don't support the community. So with regards to sort of like car park use and not overlaying with anybody else, we would be in the hands, I'm assuming, of Nicola more than anybody else on when would be good times. But I certainly wouldn't be looking for more than 1 day a week, and it would probably be a couple of hours, either 5:30 till 7:30 or 6 till 8, depending on the time of year.
Very good, thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay, right. So let's go to the closed session then. So item 48, the first item, is to approve the minutes of the Parish Council meeting held on Monday 6th of July, and the minutes of the Planning Committee held on Tuesday the 21st of July.
Sorry, Graham, I think Keith was trying to say something. I think, but he's muted.
Well, that's okay because I'm on a closed session now, I think.
I think he was trying to get in, that was all.
Are you trying to say anything, Keith? Do you want to wave?
Frozen.
Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, good, good. It's all right. I've just pressed unmute. All I'd like to say is that I'd like to second everything that Andy has said. This is a very good idea about the traffic. You have a letter from me, which Nicola's kindly accepted, and I would just like to back up Andy on anything he says.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
And I'll give you all the help, like Andy, if you want, in lobbying the Cambridge County Council.
Okay. Thank you. Right.
Thank you.
So
That's it.
the draft minutes that you've received for Monday, 6th of July, are you all happy with those? Any objections? Oh, Laura, what's the problem? No, you're on mute, but you're okay with them. So I'm going to propose that they're then signed. Can I have a seconder, please? Looking around. Yeah, Ian, thank you very much. So Ian's seconding it. Can I? Are we all in favour that we sign them all? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you much. That's good. Okay. And then moving on to the second minutes to be approved. This was the planning meeting when we had the 3 items to be discussed on the 21st of July. You've all seen those in draft form. Yeah. Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So can I propose that I sign those and a seconder? Can I use you, Anne? You had your thumb up.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So all those on the planning committee who were there, can you? Are you happy to sign them? Yeah. Okay. And then Rob was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Rob Part because he wasn't in. Yeah.
But he still authorises the minutes because he was there as a councillor.
Fine. Okay. Thank you much. That's good. Okay. Matters arising from the last meeting, including clerk's report. So this is an item where Nicola can fill us in on things that happened. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Finish my scribbling.
Yeah.
So there's been a recent update to the coronavirus regulations that apply to the council, and that removes the requirement to hold an annual parish meeting in this current year. So whilst the council agreed to postpone it, that then removes the requirement to hold it at all. I've submitted the annual governance and accountability review, the AGAR, and so we're now in the queue waiting for the external auditor's report. As per the council's last resolution, a letter was drafted regarding the A428 consultation. A copy was also published on the PC website. I copied in Jonathan Gianogli and got a response from him with an expression of support. The unidentified payment with the reference HMRC-VTR that we discussed at the last meeting has now been identified as a VAT payment that belongs to a different council. So HMRC have requested that the money is returned to them. As the last resolution, the playground and the maze have been reopened, the appropriate risk assessments completed and signage in place. There was a slight delay in opening the maze while there was some maintenance work completed. I've received the final restoration and aftercare plan for the A14 Borrow Pit 3. So this is the Borrow Pit that is just over the bridge on the 1040. I have included a copy in your supporting documents. The date has been set for the ACRE, so that's the Community and Rural Events Local Councils Conference, for Friday the 23rd of October. It will be held virtually and is a free of charge event. So if you could please let me know if you'd like me to register you for this event. Work has been started on the new website and I'm assured that it should be completed prior to the deadline. And parishioners have reported that streetlights PC3 and 4 weren't working, so the maintenance contractor will be sending an engineer to resolve this. I've since received another report of another damaged streetlight, so I'm just like to remind everyone that if you do see any damage or defective lighting, could you quote it to me, quoting the PC number that's on the lamppost. That's me done.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, moving on to item 2150. This is discuss and decide upon the next steps concerning the feasibility study. regarding removal of the B1040 from the advisory freight route map. And maybe also, while we discuss this, bear in mind 2151, which is obviously next year's LHIs. Now, you've had a summary email with the discussions that took place over summer with CCC, with the position that they're up to. And I would think it's fair to say that we're a bit in no man's land at the moment. And I'm wondering if anybody sort of had any deep thoughts about where we go from here, because it appears that we're not too sure at this particular juncture whether CCC would actually be supporting TROs. From as I understand it, we're waiting for a response from a meeting where the councillors are still, or the members are still discussing. I think that's fair to say. Anne, sorry, yeah.
Just to clarify, the LHI study wasn't about applying for a TRO.
No.
It was actually about establishing a good argument for why the original TRO that was applied for was not allowed to happen. But now we've got the possibility of the advisory freight route map not existing or not being relevant. In addition to the work that Heather's been doing, which may give us another way of, getting Hilton safe from traffic. So there's a whole heap of stuff either coming together or falling apart, in my view. So I agree with us being in no man's land. But I was interested that Sharon Piper's response to Nick was that we could apply to have our study kind of shifted onto a slightly different position and see whether they'd give us support that way. Because if the advisory freight route map isn't going to be relevant, then why waste everybody's time trying to prove why we ought not to be on that map? So,
sorry, Anne, can I just interrupt there? It wasn't Sharon Piper that stated that, that was Jack Eagle.
That stated what?
That we could change the feasibility study, but we would need to apply back to local projects.
Oh, I beg your pardon, but I thought Sharon Piper had a comment about it as well.
Sharon Piper commented to say that she couldn't predict the outcome of the discussion regarding the AFR map.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And as far as we know, is it September that, the members are discussing it? Is that?
I'm not certain. I believe there's something on the agenda for September, but I don't know whether they'll be covering.
Yeah, I thought I'd read somewhere. Sorry, Heather, far away.
Yes, I think it's quite important that we keep the experimental traffic regulation orders separate from this initiative, and that they go on in parallel rather than get confused together, because the experimental one is just in response to coronavirus, and we need to be really careful not to muddle the two. So I think Anne's item is still really important, that we carry on and persevere with it. And I thought I read that one of the options was that we could have a 24-hour traffic, some type of traffic ban, like a lorry ban, as one of the initiatives that we could investigate.
This would be for the next LHI, which would be 21, 22.
Okay.
So I say that's the next item where we have to decide at this meeting what the next LHI we're applying for is.
So for the current LHI, sorry, what are the options? I can't find the document I was looking for.
There's no option. The current LHI is that we have got money to do a feasibility study to get Hilton off the advisory freight route map. Now, obviously, if the freight route map isn't there, then we wouldn't need to waste money spending it. The only thing that's cropped up recently is that they've made it very clear that we would have to source that feasibility study, or we'd had to do the feasibility study, because, as they point out, CCC would have to look at the study, and if they've done the study in the first place, it's not appropriate. So I think that's quite interesting news.
And they've allocated us some money to do that.
Sorry?
They have allocated us some money to do that.
They've given us £4,000, yes.
2,000.
Sorry?
2,000.
Sorry, two. Okay.
Can I just pitch in there? first of all, when we put in the LHI application, it was for £10,000 to do a proper feasibility study. Only when we got the information saying that it had been accepted, the application for the study, did we learn that the CCC, had allocated £2,000. The CCC initially talked to us about working with us to put together the information to determine whether or not our idea had a good case and was sensible to bring forward. What puzzles me is that now, because they're saying, well, they'd have to judge the study, is that they're saying, well, they can't have anything to do with it. And frankly, I'm not even clear that there's any money left for us to do anything with. Because when I asked Jack Eagle sometime early in the summer, what he implied was that that was just money for the office to dedicate some time to our study. So yeah, I think you're right, Graham. It's all up to us in every respect, in my view, which I'm somewhat unhappy about. But because of the freight route map thing, we may well have to change tack anyway. So
yeah.
I'm at a loss.
Yes. Okay. Heather.
So does that mean that we could, if the £2,000 exists, we could find somebody to do a feasibility study to that budget just to get us on the road a little way to do something if that money exists?
Yes, yes. As I said, now just putting Nicola on the spot here, there was a suggestion that maybe we could find an independent consultant or transport company who could help us on that. I don't know whether you had much success with Nicola or...
I have peppered several traffic consultancies. Several have come back to me and said that it's not something that they could do. Most of them have ignored me. One has come back and he is going to prepare us a quote. And I have been very clear with him that, you know, this is the budget. So it's a question more of how much of it can you do for that budget rather than tell us the cost of a feasibility study. But I am still awaiting the actual quote for that.
So, I mean, I think the thing is that until we know if the AFR is going to exist or the advisory freight route map exists, I kind of feel that there's not a lot more we can do in this, maybe other than just send a note to CCC telling them to hold our money, because you know, the LHI is still valid, hopefully, and that depending on how they vote on the freight route map, we may or may not be claiming that money. And in the meantime, that then gives Nicola time to hopefully get a quote from somebody, which is, I mean, I think Heather's got the good point there, that even if we don't get an awful lot for our £2,000 and any money that we put in ourselves, at least it might give us a further piece of document, which could be useful.
Is there something we need to do to release or get hold of that money? Is there something else we need to go through? Or can we just say, right, we're ready now, we've got a consultant, hand us over the money?
As far as I'm aware, the money is ours. Obviously, we have to claim it.
Because with the previous LHI, everything had to go through CCC. They organised it all. Like, so this is what I don't quite understand. We were never given the money to do with when Andy did the LHI. So it seems just really odd way around now that CCC are just saying it's all back to you, because it doesn't seem to work like that in the past.
I mean, we've now got, or we have got working relationships with CCC. So I mean, it's quite easy for Nicola to confirm how the money would be allocated to us. Running in parallel, waiting for news on the advisory freight route map. But say it is slightly odd how it seems to have changed, but I suppose it does make sense that if they're going to review the study, you can't really review something that you've written yourself. So I think I do understand it, although I do appreciate that 8 months after the event is not particularly good news.
Right. Quite.
I mean,
there's a lot of questions that need answering. Do we have any money? Is there any money in the pot? Can we access it? And can we find somebody that would do sufficient level of work that we can all add to and pitch in, that would, you know, actually deliver us a study that's worth, you know, having evaluated?
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's somebody else's money, so as long as we, it will be useful money. It's been allocated to us, so I mean, I'm rather of the opinion that the action at the moment is going to be for Nicola to continue working with CCC and working with the only consultant who seems to be showing an interest with us, and maybe it gives us a bit more time to find any more consultants that might be able to help us. Heather?
Do we just need one quote, or do we need 3?
No, I mean, I understand it. The money's ours. This is obviously to be confirmed, but the money's ours. We only have one quote at the moment. So, I mean, I think whatever we get done, CCC may question the quality of what we get done. But if we are having trouble, if we can show how many people we've approached for a quote, I don't think it's reasonable to expect 3 quotes. I mean, I think if you were doing something yourself, you'd have 3 quotes. But if someone's giving you a grant, I think that's a different kettle of fish.
In line with our financial regs, we should attempt to obtain 3 quotes. There may be certain situations where you can't obtain 3 quotes, and this seems to be one of them, though obviously, as I say, I can keep trying.
Yeah, but also I think we are of a relatively low value, aren't we? I think the higher the value, the more it's important to get 3 quotes, perhaps. But yeah, okay.
So do we need a proposal to give Nicola permission to go ahead with this, or do we just need?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm going to propose, is that we continue with the tack that we're on, is to continue relationships with CCC, find out what their proposal is with the AFR map, and ask Nicola to continue to try and find a consultant who can advise us, and also perhaps to confirm with CCC if that money is just to be drawn on, if we can just sort of help ourselves to it whenever. Kieran, you were saying.
Yeah, do we have to? Do we have to come up with another description of work? Because if the freight route is now gone, what we're asked to do specifically is now no longer pertinent. So if we are going to have a consultant, should we leave him a new set of terms of reference?
Well, that's the next stage in October. Hopefully by October we would have confirmed a few things. And you're right, if the advisory freight route map is not going to be supported, then I think this is where the second line from Jack Eagles was talking, that you've effectively got £2,000. It would then be down to us to decide how we would use that money on something else. Anyone else read that email? Would that be correct? Is that the understanding from others? You're all looking a bit blank, but yes, that's an understanding. That obviously, if the freight map is taken off, then there'd be no point in paying money to a consultant. But we would have that money to do something else with, provided CCC were happy. Anne.
Well, just my understanding is, but I may be wrong, is that if the freight route map is, doesn't apply anymore, isn't relevant, then we would have to come up with some other proposition that fitted within the LHI thing in order to proceed. I can't see that we could do anything else. So Ian, you were going to say something, were you?
No, just agreeing with you.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
It's the next stage, isn't it? I don't want to get into what should we do if tonight. I still hope that the original LHI will be useful, and I would suggest that's the way we go. So just drawing a line under that, can I have a seconder that we do continue in the way we're doing, that we ask Nicola to sort out as best she can a consultant, that we continue talking to CCC, and that we ask how we get the money. That's my proposal. Can I have a seconder, please, on that? Kieran seconding it. Are we all in favour of that kind of approach?
Yep.
Have we got enough? 1, 2, 3.
Anne, are you?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm thinking.
No, Anne, you've had your thinking. I'm going to say you had to either abstain or go against. We've taken
abstain. Thank
abstain.
you.
Okay. So that's an 8-1. Thanks very much. Now moving on to the second one. This is what we're going to do for the second LHI for 21-22. There were a couple of suggestions there that we're moving on. Obviously, with various reasons or various problems, things are running late. So we really only have, well, unless we call another meeting, we have tonight to decide what we want to apply for. Bearing in mind it will take some time for Nicola to formulate that that response, but the response has to be in by help me here somebody, I can't read it.
27th.
Sorry?
27th.
27th of this month. Okay. Now obviously we can discuss anything, but as a start there are 6 items down there. So suggestions out there: 20-mile-per-hour limit, the 40-mile-per-hour buffer zone. I presume this would be X 100 yards of 40 mile per hour before coming into the village. Then there's priority narrowing. I think that was the one where we had problems before, where there was the original LHI was this one, and it was suggested that we wouldn't get that. Then we had the speed cushions, and then a weight restriction, and then we had the pedestrian crossing warning signs on St Ives Road, up by Paddocks. So those are some suggestions. Anybody else got an idea? Anne?
Just to say that my understanding, and again, if Nick could maybe clarify this with CCC, my understanding is that as long as we're on the advisory freight route map, we may not take any of these kinds of actions. They won't support it. But it's worth checking, because it may not be the case. I may have it wrong, or they may have changed their minds.
That is the basic feedback we've had before when we discussed some of these things about narrowing. I know that previously.
Yeah.
I think that came from Sharon Piper, but I'm not certain.
Yeah.
If the freight map is now disappearing, does that mean that we can apply for these kinds of measures?
We don't know for sure that it is, as far as I'm aware. We're still deciding.
Yeah, but I don't know whether we've have we had the 20-mile-per-hour suggestion before? Would that be a problem if we are still on the freight route map?
I think that would be I would imagine. I can't imagine that would be as much of a problem, because if lorries are going through, they can slow down more easily than they can go through narrowings or buffers. I've got no idea, but that.
Yeah, and I think actually you're right there, because let's face it, the Mick Georges are going through at 20, and they're not being prosecuted, so presumably a 20-mile-per-hour limit would be within the acceptable criteria, and presumably also 40-mile-per-hour buffer zone would be, but that's slightly more controversial because of course that's a bit more unusual being outside the village. But I do take on board the bit about priority narrowing and speed cushions would be an issue if we are still on the freight route map. Heather.
Ellsworth have a 40-mile-an-hour buffer outside their village, and people don't really pay any attention to it as it goes through.
I was just going to say, do they?
Mick George do adhere to the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, which is great, but it's the thumping and the juddering and the vibrations which have an impact on the houses and people going through there. So I would be pushing for a weight ban for our next application.
Okay.
I'd agree with that, because fundamentally we need to stop the lorries coming through, and the weight ban is the way to do it. And maybe this is just a way of testing the resolve of county council.
Yeah, I think maybe even if we're on the advisory freight map, so the weight limit restriction's not going to be possible, I think we need to just keep showing that that is what we want. Keep pushing that, because we've got the issue now where we can't enforce 30 miles an hour. So even though 20 would be great, we're still going to have the same issue where we can't enforce that, and we're still having cars going through faster. So.
And also the priority narrowing is just too dangerous, because the road, there are so many tight bends coming in and out of the village. So you would get congestion along Potham Road.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm having trouble understanding how this LHI would differ from the existing LHI. Can someone guide me on that, how it would differ? Anne?
Well, the existing LHI is for a feasibility study to get us off the map, full stop. These are all proposals for specific actions that would slow or deter traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think if we were to wait for the outcome of the current feasibility study before doing the next step, wasting. Whereas we may get feasibility study done and the outcome, we may be taken off the map in the next 6 months, for example, and then we've already got this feasibility LHI bid in and potentially moving forward. So
worth doing.
So the I wouldn't say general consensus, but the only noise that I've heard tonight is that the weight limit restriction is the one that's got more noise than anything else. Is that correct? Nodding of yeah. Okay. Now there's a figure that's been put by it. I'm not entirely sure what that would cover. Presumably just signage. But I
think you have to pay like a fee for the actual change, not just the signs, but like the legal changing of the TRO application.
There's a whole consultation process that has to be entered into.
Okay, which is so a lot of that money is time
and legal paperwork. There's also a road safety audit that has to be done.
Okay, so this, I mean, I think bearing in mind the trouble we've had today, I think this, I don't know how successful it would be, but I suppose it also keeps it in the council's mind, the Cambridgeshire County Council's mind, and I think that's something that we would have to accept. That I don't know what the chances of success are. I think the other ones on there would have a better success. I mean, I think the 20 mile per hour is a good one because I think it is quite enforceable, and I think that would have a better success. But if the general feeling is that we go for an outright weight limit restriction, which may or may not have a good outcome, at least it's written down that Hilton are constantly wanting that. So is that the proposal that there's the 21-22 LHI is for a weight ban?
Can I just before we agree to that, when we do the application, my understanding is that we have to provide quite a lot of information and backup and supporting data like we have previously, and also any funds that we are putting up as our part of the application. Is that right from the previous one? Do we have to say that for this deadline, Anne?
Yeah, you have to put a costing and say what proportion you're happy to provide.
Yeah, so I think we need to just be mindful of that we need to be able to say what we're willing to put in, because I know the more that we're willing to put in, the more likely we are to be accepted. And I do know there's been some discussion previously about, in the same way we've talked about getting parishioners to lobby the council about the B1040, that there has been feedback that people think there will be people willing to make donations to see this be successful. I don't know how we go about identifying that and seeing what that would be in this short space of time, but just something to think about.
Okay, then we would have to. I mean, I think on previous occasions we've had a certain period of time to pay for the LHI, so we wouldn't have to pay for it as a lump sum. Anybody contradict, please do.
3 years. We on the crossing we were given an agreement to put our contribution, which was matching. So Parish Council put up 10,000, County Council put up 10,000, but we were allowed to pay our bit over 3 years interest free.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
so we just need to make a decision on what we think our bit could be by the 27th of September, though, because I think that's important for the application and more likely to make it successful if we said we were going to pay 50% rather than 5%, for example.
Indeed, but that's obviously, if we're paying it over 3 years, that makes a big difference to the council coffers rather than paying it in one go. I mean, based on these figures here, which I'm not too sure how accurate they are, and they're obviously a little bit potentially they could have changed. But the maximum there is 18,000. So if you're going for a 50-50, the split could be potential 9,000, 3,000 a year, which is quite a lot of money.
It's just worth noting in here when we're talking about money, that figure doesn't include the cost of a public inquiry should one be required. So a public inquiry can let the County Council website lists it as 50 to 70,000 for a public inquiry.
Right. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get an inkling before that happens. I hope we will get some kind of success rate or likely success rate before we have to decide on that.
Is Laura saying that we need to say 50% next week or this month?
I think on the application you have to, it asks for what contribution the parish council or the applicant are making, or what donations we've got towards it. That's all. So I don't know if you're held to that or how it works.
Sorry, I think there's a minimum of 10% or some such number.
That's correct.
That you have to put forward. And that, as Ian Bates has told us in the past, the more that we offer up, the better our chances.
I mean, the thing is, I suppose the bad news is that you might offer to put up a lot of money and not getting anything for that money. But I hope that if they take our money, we'll get something back for it. So, Heather?
I've just had a look at our finances. We can afford it, can't we, over 3 years? And so is it worthwhile saying 75% simply because we feel so strongly about it? So the only thing people ever talk about is the B1040.
My thoughts are, if we do get the option to do it over 3 years, what fundraising could we do in the village in that 3 years that the parish council wouldn't have to pay for it, or that perhaps the parishioners would be willing to donate, or raise funds in some way or other.
Right, I agree.
Not guaranteed, obviously, but.
Peter, your hands up, I think, in silhouette.
As Councillor Bates has told us on many occasions, we could always precept increase for a specific project. So if the people of the village want it, then perhaps they'd be willing to pay for it through an increased precept for that time specific relating to the project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we do.
In which case, I'd suggest 100%.
Well, we do have the ability to think about where the funds are coming, because they won't want the money with the application. But I think we do have to be a bit cautious about offering larger and larger sums of money that we didn't actually budget for in the first place. So I'm suggesting caution on these numbers that are being suggested.
But I know the application date is the 27th September, but actually nothing much is going to happen until next year, is it?
No, but I think as Laura pointed out, there is a figure, a box in the form.
Oh, sure, I know.
Well, you have to put something in.
Well, my point is that if we put something in and we're quite bold, then that gives us time to start talking about precept increase from next April, to talk about getting donations, to get people involved, and to start to build up a pot.
Yeah, and I say, unless it may be that the LHR is not successful, in which case the money won't be required. But I mean, others, how do others feel about them? Especially, I mean, I think I got a general nodding of heads that the traffic, the weight restriction is the way to go. I'm now looking for a general consensus on what sort of money we should be suggesting. Peter?
I just wonder where Heather's got the comment that we can afford it, because I don't think we have a surplus, do we, over our income over expenditure. We have a reserve, which as a parish council we need to have a reserve, but we haven't actually got a surplus of funds at the moment, have we?
No, we are within our reserve requirements.
It's just a question of what we think. So I mean, obviously, as you say, we can find the money if we have to. It's a case of what's a reasonable amount of money.
I think the other thing is to take into account the effectiveness, because I think no one would question that a weight limit restriction isn't a good thing. There's a lot of noise about lorries going through the village, but actually, if you look a bit beyond that to the complaints today, it's actually the fact that they don't adhere to the restrictions that are there today. So some might argue, great, we're going to spend some money to ban them altogether, but we can't stop them coming through when they're not allowed to come through today. So it probably won't stop the problem. You'd expect it would certainly make it better if people are used to this not being a main route. So I think it is the right thing here out of all those options to go for, because it's probably, the others will either get ignored or actually compound the issue by making them go over speed bumps that increase noise. So I think the weight limit restriction is the right thing. I think I'd be reluctant to go in for 100% funding, because I think the whole purpose of these schemes is that you share some of that. And let's be honest, we're victims, so to speak, of this, and therefore I would suggest shouldn't be burdened with it all. And I'd also suggest, if we're going with a reasonable sum, which is, we're going to get the opportunity at a later date to decide whether we can or can't afford that, because it's such a big ban now. No one can expect you to commit at this point to that sum of money and provision for it. but it does seem like the appropriate one on the list to go for, and a level of funding to match it would probably be expected, but I don't think we should be overzealous with that number.
Yeah.
My personal view.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the thing is, that if we take you know, the range is between 6 and 18. So I mean, if you took as a suggestion, if you took 50% of the midway position, which presumably is 12,000. So if we were to suggest that we could do 6,000, and that would be 2,000 over 3 years. How's that for starter?
I think I'd go with Laura's approach for doing a percentage. So it is 6. You're only paying 3 as opposed to putting 6.
That's what I mean. Do we have to say absolute value? Like,
You have to say absolute value. You actually ask for the amounts on the form.
Does it do you have to specify the cost then? What you expect it to cost?
Yes.
So let's say out of interest.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say if you put it in for 6 and you put in 3,000, that's 50%. What happens if it then comes at 18? Do they, you know, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Well, you provision for 18 and we say we'll put in 9 and it only costs 9. Does that mean they cover it or we cover it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Kieran, you put your hand up, sorry.
Yeah, just I agree with what Rob said, and I agree with Heather about the we want to be taken seriously. We want to make sure that we're seen to be putting our weight behind this as a proportion of our precept. If it does turn out to be 18,000, then 50% of that I would have thought would seem to be a pretty significant contribution from a council of our size.
Yeah.
So I would be happy with that. And on the basis that that would be £3 grand a year over 3 years to pay it off, then I mean maybe we could negotiate a bit longer than that or a different scale. But it does give us time to raise the money, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to raise money for such an issue in the village.
I agree. Yep,
So
I agree.
that would be my proposal, that we go for the weight limit, we accept the upper figure just so that we're safe, and that we offer 50%.
Okay. Sharon, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I would agree with Kieran. I just think this affects so many villagers, and I just think the parish council need to be seen to be doing something about this. And I think you know, lots of villagers would be happy if their precept was increased slightly to accommodate, you know, to cover these extra costs. However, you know, whether you know, we could source, we have got various pockets of money for emergencies. So, you know, if we don't have any travellers, for instance, next year, we can maybe use some of that money towards it or whatever. So, you know, I just think there are ways that we could afford it. And yeah, I think it would give us a lot of credit in the village if we did.
Okay, so that's the proposal that next year our LHI would be for the weight ban, and that we assume it would be £18,000, and that we are going to provide our contribution will be £9,000. That's the proposal. Can I have a seconder for that, please? And seconding, all in favour, or can I see who's in favour? Rob, or your hand up? Fine, that's great. Okay, thank you very much. That's good. That's good. Okay, so moving on to the next item on the okay, 52. Discuss and decide upon whether to hold a bonfire night and firework display. Now, obviously, with coronavirus and in very much in our minds, this was a question as to whether we should be going ahead with it. Normally by this time we have already probably given permission for the fireworks, and there's obviously all sorts of issues, and you've all seen the suggested risk assessment that we would need to do. I'm just wondering how people think really on this matter. Kieran? Sorry. Oh, hang on. Let's get Ian. Ian, say something to me.
Say something, right. No, I mean, having looked at the risk assessment, obviously not all of those would apply to us in the way we operate. But I do feel that the most important ones we could go along with relatively easily. So my feeling is that we should go ahead, and I think it would get incredible support from the village, because at the moment so little is being done for the community as a whole.
Okay, anybody else want to say anything? And you're nodding.
I agree with that. That's just, I think we can do it. It's outside. It would be a lovely, rare community thing to do, and we just need to urge people to do all the right things with face coverings and all the rest of it. So I think it's doable and desirable.
Heather?
I don't agree. I think the risks are so high that we're putting everybody at risk. I've really been torn about this one and asked various neighbours around what they thought. And it was a 3 against 1 for, just of the 4 people I asked. But they said to me, well, in 2 weeks after the 5th of November, if there's a coronavirus and you voted for the fireworks to take place and we've got an epidemic in the village, then how are you going to feel? And I thought, oh my goodness, I'd feel absolutely awful. And if there isn't an epidemic on the 19th of November in the village, and we just put our hands up and say we got it wrong, but the consequences of going ahead and then there being an epidemic are just too great for me to feel comfortable about voting for it. I then thought, well, we spend £1,300 on the fireworks. Why not use that money to put some Christmas lights around the village on the trees so that people can go individually to admire them? Or if everything's fine in November, we could have a lighting ceremony. But just my vote would be to go against it.
Interesting.
Sharon, did you say something? Yeah.
Yeah, I have concerns about. I think families will stick together in their, huddles. But I just think we won't be able to provide drinks and food and beverages because of people queuing possibly. And I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on, Feast Week doing the barbecue, which I know is usually a good fundraiser. But I would have thought that would be difficult to manage. The queue is normally pretty big, and to have people, queuing socially distanced would be difficult. And I would have concerns about how we can do such a thorough risk assessment when we don't know how many people will come.
The risk assessment is pretty vague, isn't it? If you look at it, I don't know how you'd properly. Will someone sneeze? Yeah, probably. Will someone cough? Yeah, probably. I don't know how you measure that risk, and they're the type of things that are actually in that risk assessment. They're the real. If you go into that risk assessment document, that's the type of thing you've been asked to score. So it is an unknown. I guess I've got a slightly different view, but I think it really depends on kind of how people feel as to whether they turn up. And I think perhaps that's another thing to consider, because obviously we would have to fund this if we went ahead, and if we didn't get a lot of people, it could be an awful waste of money. It's just.
I suppose it could be argued that we needn't actually have the fireworks. Sorry, you could actually have people standing ad lib around the green, and you wouldn't actually charge. It'd be a freebie, but. I don't know. That's just. I think also there's a couple of things in the risk assessment that concern me. One is that we would need to have some, or not. It suggests that we have some kind of e-ticket system, so we wouldn't be handling cash. And we're also supposed to keep an eye on, or for track and trace, we need to know who was there. So there's another sort of suggestion, which could be. They're all possible, but it's just.
Are we actually able to have this because it's an event of more than 35 people? Is that just because we're a business, for example, putting on the event? Is that why?
As I understand it's because we're a business and we have exemption. But yes, but as a result, I think we have to act more responsibly.
I thought in looking at the risk assessment.
Go on, Laura.
I was looking at the risk assessment. I thought that some things have been given a higher risk than potentially currently there is. For example, frequency of staff or volunteers having symptoms of coronavirus. We know currently the incidence, particularly in this region, is relatively low. I think the number of cases in Huntingdonshire are very low. So obviously by November, we don't know what that's going to be. But I think the handling of the cash is one of the main issues, because most places now you go to don't have any, they're refusing cash or not wanting cash payments. That is definitely something that would be difficult, but could be, if we did put on a free event, and that would also help with social distancing, because like you said, we could have everyone just standing on the green in groups. We could mark out boxes for individual bubbles or families in areas to, I know they've done that for things like Country Park. I've seen that for things put on. I don't know, it's difficult.
In
Rob,
terms of the,
oh, sorry, Rob, are you okay with?
Sorry, I was just going to add. I think Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't Hemmingford confirmed they're cancelling theirs?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Hemmingford have cancelled. I mean, we might get more attending because other local fireworks have been cancelled. However, I do have concerns that, if we do have an outbreak in the village after this, it is going to be sort of, people are going to be wondering why we went ahead with it. And I'm not so worried about the cash, because we could quite honestly just hold a bucket and wear gloves and then keep the money.
Okay, well,
in a safe place.
Okay. Sorry, Ian, are you happy now? Did you?
yes, I mean, to a large extent, Sharon's covered the issue I was going to mention, which is the money. My thoughts were just to say to people, right, it's going to cost approximately X. We're not going to hold you to the last 20 pence. Just put a donation in that bucket and leave it at that.
Yeah, you won't get any change. Lovely idea.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I was. Oh, sorry, Kieran.
I think Peter's got his hand up first.
Oh, I can't see Peter, because Peter, can you just raise your left hand, or right hand rather, because it's your left hand's against your wardrobe.
Sorry.
I can't see it.
Yeah.
If you raise your right hand, it's better silhouette. Carry on.
Totally with Heather on this. Cannot understand why we're discussing it any further. Too risky to hold an event.
Okay. Kieran had his hand up, so I'll let him discuss it a bit further.
Sorry, Peter. Just to reiterate, I mean, all the other issues are taken into account. It does say that we, as a body, must take all reasonable measures to limit the risk of transmission of the coronavirus. I just can't see how we can do that with hundreds of people in the dark. Some will be wearing masks. We can't police it. There's not enough of us. So I just don't think we can do it on that basis alone.
Final point from me. Ely have also cancelled theirs, so we could be setting ourselves up for lots and lots of people from outside the village coming in as well.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I was going to also point out that if we did commit to £1,500 worth of fireworks, which we then bought, and then in a month's time or 2 months' time we had to cancel by legal proclaim, whatever, we could be in trouble. So I'm getting a feeling that the general majority is that we're not in favour of it. I appreciate that some were happy. Do we feel that it's a worthwhile community event? That I was just thinking that maybe we could just light the bonfire in the morning and people could bring stuff and have a cup of coffee. Is that during the day? Is that of interest? Does that water things down?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Would be my comment.
Okay. No warm feelings. Okay.
We need to bear in mind. Sorry, hand first. Comment next. And the comment is, we need to bear in mind that people have used the bonfire as a service to the village in the past for getting rid of rubbish, garden rubbish, cuttings, etc. So even if we don't go ahead with the event, we may wish to still have the bonfire.
Yeah, well, that's what I said, but I kind of wasn't. I can see from the lack of head movement that there wasn't really much enthusiasm for that.
Yeah.
Sharon.
I agree with Ian. You know, a lot of people are, you know, pollarding, and they're pollarding the trees in the churchyard this year. So I do think maybe we could offer a bonfire service to the village to burn us, and maybe, you know, I think we need to light it in the daylight so that we can actually see who, you know, who's bringing. So maybe we could just put something out in Spectrum saying we will be lighting a bonfire at, say, 4 o'clock, or it usually gets dark by about, you know, 4 then, doesn't it? But about maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If you have anything down, please bring it by 2 o'clock, and we will hold a bonfire. You know, I'd be happy to police that, but then you won't attract people coming down to watch, or, you know.
No, it's absolutely
like a sparkler.
No. Right, so we'll take Peter.
Just to say, on the bonfire thing, you could advertise that you will allow people to deposit their stuff on there, and don't advise them when it's lit. So that it's lit, it can be split, the pile can be split, and it can be lit over a number of days, early morning, so that you prevent the advertising of an event for people to gather at.
Okay. Well, let's take it as a two-voter. Based on the comments we had, I'm going to propose that we do not have a firework event this year. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Peter seconding. All those in favour? It's going to be a split, so I need to count this carefully. All those in favour of not having an event? This is not having an event. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's fine. And all those against or abstaining? Ian, okay. Are you abstaining or against?
Against.
Against. Laura? Laura, are you?
Sorry, I'm against.
Okay, that's fine. So are you happy, Nicola? 7-2?
Yeah, 7-2.
Okay, so there's no bonfire. Sorry, there's no fireworks this year. Perhaps, Nicola, could you advise the firework crew?
Yeah.
Accordingly, and thank them very much, and look forward to doing business with them next year, hopefully. So moving on to a second part then, if we have some kind of bonfire event, would that be more popular? We could do, as Peter say, just have the normal, for instance, have the normal collection time and just light it when we feel fit. We wouldn't actually have a lighting ceremony, and therefore people wouldn't congregate to watch the bonfire. Rob, are you seconding, or are you just?
No, I was just going to add to that. I think if you're going to do the bonfire, which I personally think is a good idea, I would sell it as a service for people to get rid of some garden rubbish, as opposed to a bonfire event. You know, I think this is just, as fireworks isn't going ahead, we know that people usually use this opportunity to clear some garden waste. If you'd like to, we will accept it, and perhaps we do it over 2 weekends, as someone suggested earlier, and we don't advise that we'll be lighting it at any particular time, or we can just burn it as and when we choose.
Okay.
I would also suggest that we need to actually almost advertise that the fireworks is cancelled, because if we say that people can bring things to the bonfire, people may see a bonfire being lit and might just try and run up or walk down there. So
yes, yeah. Well, I mean, Spectrum is now up and running, so that we can certainly do that. Kieran?
Yeah, just to say that the bonfire is already pretty big, so I really don't think we should open it to the public. I think it could get completely out of control, and I just think we would be creating a lot of hassle for ourselves.
Even if you light it beforehand?
Yeah, I mean, the bonfire is really quite big already. In fact, it's 2 separate mounds. It will make a very good bonfire in its own right. So if we opened it to the public and had the usual volume, we could be looking at a massive bonfire, especially if we did it over 2 weekends.
Okay, Heather?
Can't we light it now and then restock it, and light it again and restock it?
Hush my mouth. Ian?
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea, isn't it?
Well,
yes.
I mean, is that possible?
We've done it in years, haven't we? It got too big and it was burnt early. I'm sure a few years ago there was a big mound and it got burnt off at different times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm happy to leave that with the bonfire people, Sharon and Rob, although you maybe your fireworks people instead. But I mean, the thing is that we can sort out the finer details in October, perhaps. I think it's important that first of all that we advertise that we've got no fireworks. Subject to details, I think the number of people who've commented in favour of the bonfire, I'm going to propose that we do hold a bonfire collection service. How that is dealt with, we'll have to sort out the details, but that's going to be the proposal, that we do have a bonfire event, or bonfire collection service, not a bonfire event, bonfire collection service. So that's my proposal. Can I have a seconder, please? Ian is seconding. All those in favour? Again, it'll be split, so can we just count, please? So these are all in favour of having a bonfire. Okay, are you happy with that, Nicola? Okay. 8. And against?
Ewan?
You against? Yeah.
Against, yeah.
Okay. Fine. Thank you very much. That's good. All right.
Sorry, just Graham, before you move on, can I suggest we don't light it on to Kieran's point, that we definitely don't light it on the 5th of November or the Saturday after that, to make sure it isn't, people don't see it as a bonfire night thing.
Yeah, I agree.
You also need to bear in mind wind direction.
Yes.
If you get away with it on bonfire night, you can't just do it ad hoc. So you need a northerly wind.
Yeah, I think if we are going to have a bonfire event, as we are going to, it needs to be empty before we start. But
coronavirus can be carried on a smoke pot.
That's something to be sorted out between now and November the 5th, or whenever we decide. I mean, there's no reason why it has to be on November the 5th, but we can discuss that. Maybe discuss that in October meeting, the actual detail of it. Okay. Right, so we've done that now. Item 53, discuss and decide upon renewal of membership Society of Local Council Clerks. Cost of £126, is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, we are currently members. Perhaps Nicola can confirm the value of this subscription.
So this again gets you a discount on training.
Oh, yes.
And they also have a very useful clerks forum where all manner of things are discussed, but particularly useful, for instance, on the website accessibility. There was a lot of discussion between clerks as to how they were approaching it and what they were doing, suggestions for companies to deal with, and so on and so forth. So very useful resource for me.
Okay, thank you very much. So the proposal is that we do continue our membership for £126. Can I have a seconder, please? Heather, seconding. All in favour? Or can we have a vote for those who are in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's 7. Anne, are you?
I'll abstain.
You abstain. Okay. So then moving on to the next one.
Sorry, was that 7 in favour?
I think it was 8. Sorry, Anne was in.
I thought I counted 8.
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to be clever and I'm doing the adding, but I'll leave you to the adding. And perhaps if you can't see hands, just advise. Right, this is the next one, to discuss and decide upon adopting the NALC National Salary Award effective from with back pay of £86.70. This is effectively the clerk has the band or NALC have agreed the pay salary, which is an increase of £17.34. There's not really an awful lot to discuss, because obviously the clerk is on that band, and that is what the requirement is. So I think really we are going to have to vote on it, but just bear that in mind when you do vote. So the proposal is that we accept that recommendation of the new pay scale. Can I have a seconder, please? Sharon,
sorry,
second.
can I just interrupt? I thought when we'd done this previously, we all had to go out into the Britain room to discuss it.
That's to decide what level the clerk's on. This is effectively, once the clerk's on a certain level, then the salary is increased by NALC. So this is effectively a national pay. It's a national pay rise, effectively.
Oh right, okay.
So we're not still on the same scale, but the value's gone up. So that's the proposal, that we do accept that. Can I have a seconder, please? Ian. Kieran's accepting that. Can I have a vote for those in favour? Okay, that's fine. Laura, are you voting? Yeah. Okay.
I'm not quite sure to understand the vote. Do we have any choice accepted for saying the NALC? So can't vote against it really if we don't have any choice.
I think if you vote
understanding the vote.
There's nothing to stop voting against it.
Sorry?
There's nothing to stop you voting against it.
Yes, correct.
So if it was voted against by the council, we can not use the NAUC pay scale. Is that what happened, or is it just
it's not
get more documented that some councils agree? So it just seems a strange thing to vote on. That's all. I'm just understanding the vote.
Well, I mean, it's quite often when we vote to receive reports and things, it's a way of getting stuff out in the public domain. It's you know, at the very least, it's advising what's happening.
I think we need to be clear to parishioners on this, because in an environment where a lot of people are furloughed, not getting paid full amounts, or not being worked, we're offering, because the guidelines say so, pay rises. And obviously that comes from a lot of the money that is contributed from villagers. I think we need to be clear on that, because like I said, it will be an emotive topic, and like I said, it goes against a lot of people's personal circumstances during this time.
Okay.
So in effect, because it's a national award, we have no choice, really.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to move you on, because you did vote 8-1. I'm not too sure whether Laura abstained or what. She was a bit hesitant.
Well, I'll abstain, because I still don't quite understand. If we did vote again,
yes,
does the pay rise go ahead regardless because it's a national pay rise, or does the council view overrule the NAUC view? I don't understand, so I'll abstain.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, me too. I'll abstain as well.
You want to change your vote?
I didn't vote before, no. I just
Would you mind repeating the vote just for clarity, please?
Okay, so for clarity, the vote is to accept the national pay scale increase of £17.30 per month. That's the proposal. Can I have a seconder, please? Kieran seconding. All those in favour, please raise your hand clearly and hold it there while Nicola counts.
Okay.
Okay, and abstentions? Okay. Oh, three abstentions. Yeah. Okay. Thank you much. Right. Okay. 55 to discuss and decide upon purchasing a bin for the playground. Cost of £78 to £100. Now, in the supporting documents, I'm going to guide you here. First-hand experience. Can I suggest we go for the last one? I'll tell you why. Because I think it's the relatively cheapest one, and also the one above it has got 2 holes in it, which makes it a bit harder for putting pizza boxes in. At the moment, we have an open bag, which means that anything can go in. Don't wish to influence the next the pizza man's application, but at the moment the bag is open and anything gets put in there. And my worry is that if you have a restricted opening, stuff might get left on the outside. The point I'm making is that quite big things get discarded into that bin. So unless anyone's got any, I mean, you may find another bin, but of the 4, the 50-litre bottom one would be my suggestion.
I'm really not that bothered by the bins, but is there any reason you suggest that over the first one, which is slightly cheaper?
Is it cheaper?
Yeah, well, from what I can see, I can't see it very clearly, but I think one's £87.95 and the other's £89.95, but
okay.
I may be wrong.
Yeah, I think
unless there's a delivery, maybe.
Big, isn't it? Yeah, okay, well, it's fine. As long as it's got a big opening, that's all I care about. Or suggest.
The reason that one's cheaper, Laura, is because it's exclusive of VAT.
Okay.
Oh.
So it's not cheaper.
Sorry, could I just ask, being environmentally friendly, is the double one a recycling and a rubbish bin?
I don't think, no.
Is there a possibility we could put 2 bags in that double bin?
No.
No.
Oh, right. Okay.
I mean, the thing is that you've got the dustbins around the village at the moment that aren't recycling. I mean, we could always put a note saying, please take your recycling home, which is, you know, so we could have a little notice stick on the front, couldn't we?
Yeah.
But I say this is primarily to improve the plastic bin that we've got at the moment, the plastic bag.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody got any suggestion or happiness or dishappiness?
I noticed that we've got £50 in playground in the budget, which hasn't been spent so far this year. So I'm assuming this would come out of that would go towards this, or does that come out something different?
Sorry, the £50 that's in the budget is for the annual inspection.
Okay.
Peter, your hand's waving there.
there's a little comment on there that about HDC saying that for collection, quoting an amount of £252.64 for the year.
Yes.
We're not voting on that, are we?
No, because that's the money that they would charge if they walked up the path and took the bin out. At the moment, we take the contents to the bin that's at the end by the pumping station.
Okay.
And they pick it up for free. So I think that they were just offering a complete service. But no, the proposal is that we're just going to vote on a bin.
Thank you.
And if no one's got anything else further to say, I'm going to suggest that we do go for the last one, bin number 4. Are we happy? That's my proposal. Kind of a seconder, please. Who's seconding? Oh, Rob's seconding. All those in favour, raise your hands and stay there clearly.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Good. Okay. Thank you much. That's good. So hopefully we'll get a bin installed at some point. Okay. Right. Moving on. To discuss and decide upon whether to continue councillors' items in their current form as a standard agenda item. Kieran, this is one that you raised earlier, but we didn't do it in July because you weren't with us. So
no great issue here, other than the fact it's a bit of housekeeping. Really, we were supposed to be temporary, and it's been used for quite a long period of time. So I just thought we ought to either make it officially permanent or not. So my view would be that it's useful as long as the items are relevant, and just doesn't become a platform to discuss things which really the PC can do nothing about. But apart from that, I'm happy to have it continue.
I agree.
Yeah. I agree, and I think it's a useful way to perhaps, say our thanks at the end of a meeting, or or enlighten people with news of, from the village.
Okay. I mean, the only thing I would add is that sometimes it's beneficial if the stuff is mentioned beforehand. So I mean, if you did think of something X days in advance, it might be worth contacting the clerk so that it can be mentioned in the clerk's items. The reason for that is that it's often handy to know what's coming up in the meeting. Information can sometimes, information that you're mentioning at the end could have been useful during the meeting. And quite often the little sort of pithy bits at the end, the AOB or the councillors' items, are often the bits that are most interesting to parishioners because they're short and they're facts rather than discussions. And so if that's at the beginning of the meeting, it might be beneficial to parishioners. But I mean, apart from that, that's a suggestion. So I mean, has anyone else got any thoughts?
So can I just ask, would that have to be in a week before the parish council meeting, like the agenda item?
No, because it would just be a statement. It would just be an item that Nicola could put into her report, because it wouldn't be a discussion topic. It would just be fact. So
obviously, as much notice as possible would be appreciated.
Indeed. But depending on what the item was. But yes, we wouldn't be discussing it. So parishioners wouldn't need to know what it was to obviously give their comments.
We used to have the council items, or anything that was the council item discussion.
Sorry, I missed all that.
Oh, can you hear me?
Is anybody else having trouble?
Yes.
I'm off mute, so I'm not sure. Anyone hear me?
We can hear you, it's just breaking up a bit, Laura.
Oh, okay. Must be my connection. I just think the councillors' items used to then go forward to the next month's meeting as a standing agenda item, but does that still happen automatically, or do we still need to?
I don't think it ever went forward as that. I mean, it should, if you want to raise something as an agenda item, it should be sent to the clerk beforehand.
Okay. The reason I asked for it to be emailed is so that you can send me the form of words you want to use for your motion.
Yeah, and it may be that some of the things, an item may not be acceptable for various reasons. So it's that's why it's not a standard item carried across. So I mean, no one's speaking against it. So the proposal then is that we do have council items as a regular end of meeting item. Yeah. Kind of a seconder for that, please. And seconding, all in favour? We're going to go for that. Okay. Laura, are you with us or are you against us? You're with us. Brilliant. Okay, thank you much. That's good. Moving on down there. Okay, this is to discuss and decide upon. This is the this is a carryover. Item 57, carryover from our last meeting where we agreed to use the Fair FX card. It then turned out that what we've been quoted was for private use, and that for company use, which is effectively what we are, there would be a charge. So the recommendation now is that we continue with the Optimum prepaid card, but there will now be a charge of £2 a month. That's the best deal we've found at the moment. Obviously, we will continue to monitor that, but while it's an additional cost, it is also worth bearing in mind that the card is used quite a lot. So if we don't have that, then we do restrict some of the things that we can do. Does anyone wish to comment? No? Okay. Right, so that's the proposal, is that we carry on with Optimum. We're not tied for any length of time, Nicola, are we?
No, not at all.
So this is a month by month basis. So if we do find something better, we can change. But I think we need that card. So the proposal is we continue with the Optimum card at £1.99 per month. Can I have a seconder, please? Oh, Ian seconding. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay, Rob, yeah, fine. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, this is to discuss and decide upon whether to participate in the community gritting scheme. Now, this is a scheme that that's been around for quite a few years. Whether they're revamping it, I'm not too sure, but basically, they're wanting that all volunteers should re-sign and start from scratch. And there's a 12-page health and safety list, and all the bits and pieces that go with that. Now, we're looking for volunteers from within the village, and I think the proposal really is that we would put this out on the website, Facebook, whatever, and see what volunteers we get, and then based on that we could decide what routes it would be appropriate for those volunteers to do. I mean, I think it's better to do it that way rather than sort out the routes and then find that the volunteers who do come forward are some way from those routes. Has anyone got any sort of comment about that? Oh, Peter?
Do we speak? Would it be worth speaking to Andy, for instance, who is a previous volunteer and has got details of those people that have stepped forward to do this?
Fine, yeah, Andy, do you want to speak, or you have?
Yeah. That I mean, because of the wonderful climate change, we haven't had to use for the last couple of years.
Yes, quite.
So we have brand new equipment not being used because the old gritter was replaced because it effectively rusted away with the salt, and sitting in the pavilion ready to be used. So we could re-lobby the people that did it probably 3 or 4 years ago now, so if they want to, and then put up a request for probably newer, younger, fitter people to push that thing around the village. But the routes are all there. They've been pre-approved by the council. They're very doable. Even Ian Bates joined in, and others in that. So happy to put the word out again and see if we can get that. If there's new requirements, Graham, that you said have been set through, like health and safety or whatever it is, then we can get those distributed around the previous volunteers if they want to continue, and look for some maybe new blood.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, just putting Nicola on the spot here with website, is it appropriate that we put the 12-page health and safety on the Parish Council's website?
It's published by the County Council, so I can't see why not. I can always verify with them if you'd like.
I'm just thinking that we could put notices on Facebook, etc., but if people could see it on our website, then they would have a better opportunity to understand what's actually involved, because it is quite a detailed. Yeah. You know, you think you might be signing up to just spread some salt occasionally, but with the 12 pages involved, there is quite a requirement which people might not be aware of. So that would be my proposal, that we do advertise it for volunteers and see what sort of response we get, but we put the notice on the council's website so all the information is there. So that's the proposal. Can I have a seconder for that option, please? And you're waving your hand, that's great, thank you. All in favour of that action? Yeah. Oh, and Rob, Fine. Okay. Thank you very much. That's good. Right. To approve the request to hold Feast Week from Sunday, 25th of July, 2021 through to the 31st of July, 2021. Now, this obviously is the standard polite sort of coming in. Can we have Feast Week? Obviously, it's early days to know whether how things are going to pan out this time next year. But I mean, are we happy in principle, or are we not happy in principle?
Yeah.
Discuss.
Happy.
Happy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a long way off to say you can't have it, and I can appreciate that things need to be set in motion to get things moving. But I think this year, when it was cancelled, it showed that they were keeping their finger on the pulse. So we haven't had any problems. So my proposal would be that we do give Feast Week permission to have the usual tent, etc., on the green on those dates. Seconder, please. And Sharon seconding. All those in favour, raise your hands. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. Now, someone's dropped out, was it? Oh, it's Pizza Man, was it? It's
yes, he's coming back. Hang
still
on.
got all councillors. So
Yeah, I was just doing the same myself.
Yes.
Quick
Yeah.
head count.
They're fine. We're back again. It's just that everyone's face got bigger suddenly, so I realised we were a few missing. Okay. Okay. Right. That's right. That's handy. The next item is to discuss and decide upon the request to allow the 400-degree pizza to trade from the Village Hall car park. Now, I really think this is a simple one, but I'm going to pass it across to Kieran, who has got more details about activities that are permitted on the green. I think this falls foul of that, but Kieran, can you go?
It's pretty simple, really. I'm not sure quite why we've got it on the agenda, but the Parish Council has never sanctioned any profit-making activity on PC land for the benefit of a private business or person. It's just never happened. So this would be quite a substantial change of direction for the Parish Council to allow this. And I think it's always been that way for a very good reason, and that is that once you start, where do you stop?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm getting good feedback that the pizzas are very good, but then it's a question of where do you stop? As you say, you then end up with a Saturday market, and I say it's very hard to police. So I think the rules are quite clear as far as the green goes. So that would be Sharon.
I mean, there's been a kebab van in Petworth for years, which has been really popular, and I appreciate he's in lay-by, but I think the village would really welcome this because of, lack of local takeaways and people that could just walk and go and pick up a pizza. So I would be very much in support of it, and I know it's something we haven't done in the past, but actually there's nothing to stop him, as in his letter, to setting up on, say, the main road, but he's obviously very aware of safety and being sort of near to the village hall would be a much safer option. So I think it, whilst it's not actually on the grass of the green, I appreciate it's in the village hall car park, which I think would need to be monitored for rubbish and waste, as he clearly said he would before, and like he said, he's wanting to set this up to serve the community and enhance the community, really.
Okay, Rob?
Yep, right, Graham, when you introduced this and passed over to Kieran, the way you said it suggested it wasn't something that was allowed on common land. Is that what we're saying, or is that
it's on our notes about what activities are permitted on the green. We have got that document.
So it's our guideline, not a common land rule.
I'm not entirely sure the legal, what other legal restraints there are, but certainly in terms of the document that we agreed X years ago, it would fall foul of that.
But the way you said it, I wasn't sure if there was something that prohibited it legally, not just from our policy point of view, but it's in our policy that we wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Laura? Sorry, yeah. Laura, your hands up.
I've got a couple of questions. Is the village hall car park common land?
Yes.
Is that part of the...
Yeah.
Personally, I
Can't hear.
You're cutting in and out again, Laura.
I can't do anything.
You're back now. Put the mic closer. Always works. Blow into it.
So I think it would be good for the village. I think we don't have that much locally.
Okay. Peter, your hands up.
No, it's just I couldn't hear Laura because she kept, as we discussed, she kept dropping in and out. We have a business in the village that provides food, who's said that he doesn't want the pizza van parked in his car park because it will infringe on his business. There isn't much business in the village at the moment. Why are we supporting something that will do away one of our own?
Has he said that, Peter?
Well, that's what
it says.
When I was reading this somewhere in one of the supporting documents, it said that the business had applied to put it in the pub car park, but the landlord had said he's amenable, but it's not. One of the conditions being that he also serves his own food. So why would we want to deprive or put something up in competition to one of our own?
But he argued that he was amenable, which suggested he was open to it. But
yes.
Well, I say,
and also it's against our policy as well.
I mean, I think really the point is that it might be nice to have pizzas, but then where do you stop? Let's face it, it could be a riot. I really think that the policy was agreed by us X whatever ago, and we need to bear that in mind. Heather, you haven't said anything yet.
I think Anne was going to come in and disagree about the policy, and I was going to ask her about that. But I was going to suggest, why not just have it for 3 months and see how it goes?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a special time. It's a difficult situation for people. They're not able to get out and go to restaurants, etc., as much as they might have done before. And it does seem to me this would just be a bit of a fillip. And we could put a time limit on it. It's once a week, 1 or 2 hours max, as the chap said. So let's go with it.
I also wonder about the comment of where will it...
Just because I'm a bit concerned about where we're going with this. I just want everybody to understand what the implications to this could actually be. If we say yes to this, we would have a very hard argument, firstly supporting anything else that's in our policy documents. The second thing is anybody else that would come with a reasonable proposition we would be hard to say no, and we would be potentially open to quite a dramatic change in what goes on village of an evening. There's issues with licensing. If this chap's got a street trading license, he can park his vehicle anywhere that he's got a license to do that. And the reason that people have street trading licenses is that local authorities want to know exactly where those vans are going to be, so that they don't get out of hand. They're not close to right outside somebody's front door, that kind of thing. So by us allowing somebody to do this on parish council land, which is private land really, we're allowing this business to cut past all of those other checks that the local authority had in place. Street trading license is one. There's liability issues. There's the environmental health office where he has to register if he's going to be a street trading person. All those things are circumvented if he can do this on private land. Just to add, I was also approached by somebody indirectly who runs a bar in Toseland on private land, and asked whether the parish council would be happy for him to come. Now, if we let this go through, we would have no way of stopping that, really. I mean, it'd be very hard as a public meeting to say that we would not allow that. So we have to be really careful that we see the full ramifications of this. It's not just one guy in a van. It's quite a big deal. Sorry to
Rob.
I guess there's quite a lot of emotion clearly on this topic. It's interesting. I'm pretty impartial to the old concept. I think Kieran's absolutely right though. A couple of things we do need to consider. So I think there's a few views here that are relevant that we should kind of think about. One is there's a view that people in the village probably want some additional levels of service, and while the pub does serve food, I think there's some people that will look for something different. I think that's a fair thing and a positive. Kieran's point about this does open the door for the people, and we need to think what do the village want and what do we want, and how do we control that, because you know, you probably wouldn't want a free for all for whoever turns up serving whatever they like on the village green to do that. I think we referenced it earlier, or Graham, you did. You know, with this comes other things like rubbish that would need to be managed, and those type of things that we need to think about. You know, we're not getting any revenue stream from this, but potentially going to have rubbish and things that need clearing up, and you know, extra repairs to the car park, for example. So I do think whichever way we go, we need to think through just beyond this request and think what the bigger picture is.
Heather.
So if it's against the policy of the parish council, then I agree we shouldn't be going ahead with it. Would there be anything to stop him just parking in the lay-by on Poton Road and just running it from there?
Not if he's got a street trading licence, he can do that. But he would have had to square that with the local authority in terms of he's not an obstacle in the road and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Also, just from the letter that we got, I think it did say that potentially park in the car park of the pub, and that would go ahead, but he's just the literal car park is just a preferred location. So just to bear in mind that if we say no, May will still park up in the car park and that still go ahead. So we still have the potential issues with rubbish or whatever anyone else has mentioned on that front. So.
I mean, he has said that he would be clearing it up, and also the point there is that Simon's got far more control about who parks on his car park than we do. So I mean, I really can't accept that we let this go through. I think it's got huge implications, and I really want councillors to vote against it. Otherwise, we're going to have to get into a different. Well, we'll have to come up with all sorts of different policies, and the implications are very serious. Anne.
I am just going to be silly for a minute, but why don't we encourage tradespeople to park along Potten Road, preferably during the day, and eventually heavy trucks will get the message it's not a good place to go through.
Great idea.
That would solve everything, wouldn't
I
it?
encourage them, man. They might come to get food. Might be a new truck stop, Hilton truck stop.
Yeah, but that would block the road, so still not a through route, is it?
Well, I'm going to hope that we've turned you around and just say that this has to be. But the proposal is that we reject the Pizza Man's application because it goes against the rules of the Green, and that we wish him well in the pub car park or wherever else he chooses to sell from. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Heather seconding. All those in favour of rejection? 1, 2. Oh, sorry. Okay, so is that 6? I'm counting again. Sorry, Nicola.
Yeah, 6. I agree.
Okay, abstentions. Anne's abstaining. Okay, and against. So it's Sharon and Laura. Okay. Should I be doing objections first?
Against is normally before abstentions.
Yeah, okay, so that's, thank you very much. Okay, so that's a 6-2-1. Thank you very much. Okay, right. Moving on to the books. Now, this was what we discussed last time when we applied for £1,000 from HTC's grant, but it kind of changed focus when we found out that it was going to be match funding. It's also been around for a little while. And the recommendation is that we don't accept their offer because the time has passed, and that the parish council need to also match fund £200. So I don't know whether we want to discuss this or whether we're happy to move on with the rejection. Anyone want to say anything? No. Okay. So that's the proposal: is that we turn down the offer of £200. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Heather's seconding it. All those in favour, raise your hands so we can see them. Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, this is the one to discuss and decide upon whether to apply to the Cambridgeshire Corona Fund for the clerk's hours in managing the coronavirus support scheme. Now, you'll see from the supporting documents that you've had that various councils have applied for various sums of money to help them out during the coronavirus, and the suggestions you made that we should be doing likewise. Now, the only thing that we could think of was the clerk's extra hours, but well, I better not say too much. Does anyone else wish to comment on this one? Okay. Oh, Anne.
One bit of me says, yeah, why not? Absolutely. Another bit of me says, I'm sure there are other parishes more needy than ours who may benefit more from the money.
Not if you've read the list.
Right?
Not if you've read the list.
Okay, in that case, go for it.
It's an interesting list, isn't it?
It is, yeah, good point.
Heather.
Yes, I was very disappointed that Huntingdonshire Councillor didn't contact us to tell us that this fund existed. I'm not quite sure how we should get this information, and I feel as though we came rather late to the party in order to get the money. I'm sure Nicola has invested a huge amount of time in coordinating all of the volunteers, the literature, the leaflet drop, everything else that went along that. And the Huntingdonshire have put aside this money for parishes just like us in order to support our residents. So I think we should be applying for it. I'm not quite sure what sort of sum, because I don't know how many hours Nicola has spent. But if we had to pay for the services of doing leaflet drops and all the rest of it, it would be a large amount of money, and I think we should be putting in a bid for this.
I mean, just putting Nicola on the spot there, I don't know how many extra hours were spent, but that said, if we were to apply for Nicola's extra hours, then the money would have to be given to Nicola. I appreciate the thought would be that we would use the hours money and put it into the council funds, but whether it's, I mean, also I think the thing is that we claimed it was a volunteer scheme, so I'm kind of uneasy about claiming money unless we've got some direct costs.
I think the amount of money that Nicola would have spent would have been diverted from other activities that she would have been doing for the council. I think we have probably lost out in some ways because so I think it would go into a pot rather than, sorry Nicola, directly to you.
No, I wholeheartedly agree.
Sharon,
I would agree with that, and I just think, you know, we don't know how long this virus is going to affect the community. You know, there are a list of volunteers now delivering prescriptions and things like that. That's a new service set up, which I know Andy's involved in, and so is Sarah Collard. And I just think, you know, we may have an opportunity to, although this is a voluntary thing, if it comes long term, if we had that pot of money, you know, if the volunteers wanted to claim, you know, petrol or expenses, not their time, I just think, you know, it gives us the funds to, you know, secure additional services in the future as well. And you know, these are quite big amounts: £5,000 for Godmanchester and 2,000 for Bluntisham. Well, Bluntisham must be a similar sized village to us, so you know, I think we haven't got anything to lose. You know, the other parish councils have applied for this, so I would say let's apply for it.
I've also seen some of the comments on the applications, I think, like providing tablets or laptops to the children that aren't able to go to school. So that's another thing potentially we can put down as, I think, we could have either people apply to get one. I don't know how it would work with the money, but that's another thing to see the organisations put down in their funding.
But I think the thing to bear in mind at the moment is this is all retrospective, isn't it?
Well, that might not be, because you know, if there's any local lockdowns or students doing 2 weeks at school, 2 weeks at home, they would still need some sort of learning device to enable them to work from home. So that's going forward, definitely.
But there is a lot of work going on now for vulnerable people, because although, you know, people aren't shielding as much, there are still vulnerable people who who are not going out as much, or not going to crowded places, or standing at the GP surgery for an hour to get prescriptions. So, you know, I think there's, you know, it's changed the whole way our community lives, really, and I strongly think that we should apply for it. You know, Long Stanton got £5,000 for doing exactly what, you know, our volunteers did to support 200 people who were isolated, delivering shopping, and but as well, with Laura's point, I think if, you know, we don't know how the children have only just gone back to school, if children then become ill and have to be homeschooled, then that's the sort of thing we could help out with.
Also, the government shielding has now finished, so the food parcels that anyone shielding they were getting are no longer being delivered. So it may be that more people are in need of food parcels or packages than previously.
Yep, go for it.
I think so.
Peter, you
just provide some information. Our precept is what, about 30,000 a year?
Yep.
Bluntishams is 92,000, so it's a considerably bigger village than ours. Just for clarity.
Right. Okay. Okay. But the thing is, I'm getting a sort of a general feeling of go for it. I've no idea what sort of value we're talking about and what sort of figure we're going for, and if we're trying to claim it's for something that we've done or something that we expect to do in the future.
Well, let's find out how to apply, what it entails, but in principle agree that that's what we want to do.
I think we could apply for £3,000 retrospectively for the work that has been done so far, for Nicola's time, for villagers' activities, and we then find out if we're successful and have that ready for future events if we don't want to cover costs that we've already expended.
Okay. And I think maybe we need to have a proviso that if we get that money, then we contact all our volunteers who volunteered and suggest that there is now some money. If they did expend money while helping, then the parish council will reimburse, or will at least have. I mean, I don't feel confident having a pot of money that we may not actually use.
I don't think the money's for those people. It's to coordinate the activities of, which is what Nicola or others would do. It's not for the volunteers, because the other parish councils have done that. It's more to the coordination of that work, I understand.
But then if you're coordinating it, you're paying for someone's time, aren't you?
Yeah, Nicola's, I understood that's what we were discussing.
But then the money wouldn't go to her.
No, because like Heather was suggesting, Nicola's time's then been used on these activities rather than potentially other council activities. I don't think that's what we've been suggesting.
But actually, Long Stanton received £5,000 to enable 100 local volunteers to support 200 isolated older people, delivering shopping and prescriptions. So,
all the numbers are to the nearest 1,000, give or take. You know, 90% of these are to the nearest £1,000. They're not calculated things. They're people applying for that type of service. To your point.
I mean, I suppose if the volunteers had expenses like petrol, etc., that could be we could offer to pay for those aspects. But I think people were volunteering their time without expecting to be paid for it. So
Indeed. I mean, the thing is that I don't. Obviously, we've heard about how the other councils have got money to set up the scheme. We don't really know how that money was then used in the scheme. Sorry, Anne.
Could we not contact the volunteers and ask them what they feel would be helpful to spend the fund to continue to help people, whether it's young people or old people? Why don't we ask them the question, what do they think is needed? So rather than them having the money, what needs are there that they've spotted, and let's do that.
Heather?
Why don't we apply for the money and see if we're successful, and then work out how we're going to spend it?
Yeah, good idea.
That's all. We would have to apply for it. Sorry, Kieran.
Sorry, I was going to say I'm with Heather on that. And I think somebody raised a point, in my opinion, Heather, actually, that we're kind of asking to compensate the parish council for the time that the clerk has put in. at the detriment of other things. And I think that's pretty straightforward. I think I'll be happy with that.
Okay.
Okay. So the figure that Heather suggested was £3,000.
Go for 5 if you want.
Wish to amend that, and I think there's a key there that we're effectively trying to get the money into our account. So basically, we have to put Kieran's point there that it would be to the detriment of other activities. Hopefully, we don't have to prove that. Are we happy with that, or does anyone want to say anything? No. Okay, so that's the proposal. Then we put £3,000 in. And can I have a second for that, please? Oh, Peter, you're seconding?
Yeah.
All in favour of going for that? We'll go for that then. Yes. Ian, you're sorry. So can we just hands up so we can hold? Yeah. Have you got that, Nicola?
Yep. Ian?
Against?
I'm waiting for the third option.
Yeah, against abstention.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ian's abstaining. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. So does that mean then, Nicola, are you able to apply for that?
Yes.
We can delegate
I
that.
do need to do all sorts of cash flow forecasts and business plans in order to do that. But yeah.
So you could end up spending more. So yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you very much, sir. Right. To discuss and decide upon whether to get permission to investigate the following regarding trim trail in the village: sources of income, possible locations, type of equipment which could be installed, views in the village as to whether this would be welcome, consultation with the common rights holders. Now, this carried on from last time, where we agreed to ask for funding from Sport England, which was turned down, and now it's come back, and I think it's actually quite good, because now at the time we just agreed to go for the money. I think now we've got a bigger debate here as to what else is involved aside from the money. So we can have an open discussion about where, what, if, how, etc. Okay, Heather?
So I wrote the paper beforehand, and I thought I had permission for all of this, but Nicola quite correctly said that I hadn't got permission, so I couldn't send a questionnaire around or anything like that, which is why it's coming back. Again, this is not saying we are going to have a trim trail in the village. So this is not a decision about a trim trail. Yeah. What this is about is, can we go ahead to find out whether we can afford it, think about where it could go, think about the types of equipment, ask villagers whether or not it's a good idea, and consult with people. And once we've got all that information, come back to the council to say, is this something that we can agree to and we want to do? So I'm not asking for permission from the parish council at the moment for a trim trail. I'm asking for permission to investigate along those lines.
And you?
Yeah, no, that's how I read it and understood it. And hence we don't need to discuss all the detail here and now. It's actually about saying, yes, we give permission for that investigation and exploration to take place, and then to come back to the council. So for me, it's very straightforward, and I'd go for it.
Okay, anyone else want to say anything at all? No? Kieran?
Yeah, I just, it seems that we perhaps ought to do things in the right order. I would really like us to do number 4 on the list first. And I think we should ask the village, without any kind of leading document, as to what it is, whether they would be happy to have anything on the village green or not, and just get a feel for that. The last time that question was asked was when the village plan was done some time ago. I'm sure you would remember how many years ago that was, and it was very clear that people didn't want the green and the wilderness used for anything else other than an open space amenity for everybody. And so I'd be really keen to get that, ask that question again before we went too far along, because these things have a way of gathering momentum. And before we do that, I'd really like to know whether there is actually a need for this. I just want to say one other thing, and that is that I would also like, if it does come back and the villagers say, yes, let's do it, I would also like to see us, if we did install anything, have it done in such a way that it's not so expensive, perhaps something that we design and build ourselves rather than bringing in a company, something that doesn't involve pouring concrete, so we don't have to do a Section 38, which I think is something we mustn't forget that is lurking out there, and test it, you know, to make sure that it will be used, that it doesn't get vandalised, and all the other things that. So before we spend a lot of money, I think we could perhaps do these things in a more gentle way. First, ask the village in a non-leading way as to whether this is something that is really would be desired above having the green left as it is, and then if that's a thumbs up, then look at it in terms of maybe designing and building something ourselves, which is a temporary structure, rather than having something which is a little bit more permanent.
Okay, Ian, your hand was up, is it?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think one of the questionnaire points mentioned location, and I think that at this stage it would be wrong to speak of a possible location specifically. I think it should be a very open question. As Kieran says, the principle of having a trim trail. I mean, just for the reference of others who weren't at it, we did have a green open spaces meeting a few weeks ago. Kieran was there, as was Willie Wilson, and we looked at locations other than what had been mentioned in the form. So that'd be my comment there. Thank you.
I agree with that.
I mean, I think the wording is there because the trim trail implies that you're running between the various activities, and
yes, certainly state that.
Yeah, but I think the implication, although it was mentioned in the village, I don't know where else you would put things.
Well, let's ask the question, see what people come up with.
Okay.
I actually came up with one or two other locations where bits.
Wow.
Okay. I mean,
so,
just
no, there are others.
Yeah. I mean, are we? I have fears about this, but the thing is, if you go for a survey and you get the requisite number of people coming back saying yes, there is obviously a cost. I mean, we obviously would hopefully get a grant, but then there's the implications thereafter, aren't there, where the maintenance, you know, these things wear out, so they'd have to be maintained. There'd probably be insurance. There'd be all sorts of additional costs and risks that we perhaps haven't considered up to now. So we need to be sure that if we are going to put this survey out, that we can carry it through. If we do get a lot of people saying yes, it would be awkward if you said actually we realise that not many, because let's face it, I don't think many people from the village will benefit from it. You might say that.
Why not?
50. Sorry?
Why not?
Because the majority aren't of a trim trail age. So
that's the whole point.
That's
the whole point.
You might have 100 people who would benefit from it, but the majority would not benefit from the trim trail.
Graham, I'm quite shocked that you've said that,
Yes,
because
me too.
that's a sweeping statement, and actually, it's a bit ageist. It's, that during lockdown there have been loads of people out walking, and I'll tell you what, if you had a dog, you just see lots of people out walking that you've never seen before, just going out for walks with the dog or cycling. So activity is just so crucial to health and well-being, and I think this is a really opportune time for the parish council to support health and well-being of the whole village. And I think you'd be really surprised. There'd be a lot of people who would want to do it. And just to take up on Kieran's point, I'd be concerned if, Kieran, did you mean we would construct it ourselves, a trim trail?
I don't know. I haven't really given it a lot of thought, other than there are people in the village who could professionally advise us on something. What I'm quite keen to avoid, if we can as a council, is not walk into a situation which could be divisive in the village, if I'm being blunt about it. And I don't want it to come down to Parish Council against common right holders. We need to avoid that at all counts. So,
sorry, what did you say? You don't want it to what? Sorry.
I don't want this issue to get to the point where it is it sets the Parish Council against common right holders. Because common right holders are one of the vested parties who will be consulted in the Section 38, along with English Heritage and loads of other people. So ultimately, that's where it could get to. I don't really want there to be a conflict over this and it to be divisive. I think the thinking behind it is laudable. I think it's very positive that the Parish Council should be supporting these kind of things. But I'd like to see it done in a much more gentle way that doesn't, that avoids having a Section 38, and therefore we don't have apparatus bought in from another company which is expensive and have it installed, that we can perhaps figure out a way of doing something ourselves which is a little less impactful.
Heather?
Can I propose that Kieran and I, sorry to land you on this, Kieran and I get together and reword the questionnaire so it meets those principles and we circulate it. We only go for item 4 on that list at the moment. Just to clarify, the trim tray is for 12 to 99-year-olds, so it is for everybody, Graham, including you.
Yeah, it's all very well having a derisory about ageism or whatever, but most of the stuff that you're talking about is not going to be used by the people of above a certain age. You know, pull-up bars, monkey bars. I appreciate that they might want to slalom. They can slalom between the trees that already exist, and walking is very good and probably one of the best form of exercises which they can do without all this. So I don't appreciate
and then the other point I was going to say was that there's some health and safety things, so you have to have proper signage and you have to have this and that. Yeah. So we need to make sure we're adhering to all of that as well. But I totally agree with this softly approach. Very happy to go with Kieran's ideas and to take it forward in that way.
Okay. Anne?
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with go with the views of the village. I think Ian's already come up with alternative locations that don't affect the green. So let's not go entirely to simply consulting with common right holders. Let's get the views of the village, including where they think stuff could be put up. And I know there are some examples of equipment shown there, but there's lots of other stuff you can use in a trim trail that I can assure you people of all ages, even quite bent and decrepit, have been able to use. So I would opt for some perhaps alternative bits of equipment, but there's loads of options out there.
Now, if we go for the survey, correct me here, Nicola, am I required to delegate to yourself? Or
if you want the survey to be written and issued prior to the next council meeting, you have to delegate it to an officer or a committee.
Alternatively, Kieran and Heather could get together and present it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to move it further than that, faster than that, because it was originally proposed in July.
Yeah.
Well, Peter?
What was proposed in July was that an investigation apply for funding was, and that has been declined.
Yeah,
so
I would urge against all knee-jerk quick stuff. When you do things quickly, that's when the problems occur. There's no need to do this fast. It has to be done properly in a or whatever manner. So I mean, you've got the choice. We can either ask Nicola to come up with a survey, or yourselves and whatever, we can come up with a joint survey which we then discuss at the next meeting. Laura, sorry. I
was just going to say, like, there's already a proposed survey been put together. Can Nicola not just adapt that to remove the information about location that I'm happy specifically refers to potentially being on the wilderness?
Okay, Anne, is that addressed?
It's okay. I'll pass.
Okay, Kieran, are you happy?
Well, I just wanted to support Heather's position on this. If you can wait 1 month, so we can put together a survey which I think is going to be good for everybody, then we can bring it to the next council meeting, get it rubber stamped, get it distributed, and you know, we're only talking 4 weeks to have that done.
Yeah, but my point is I have done a survey and I put it in the Dropbox and it's there for everybody to look at.
Indeed, but the point, we've had a long meeting tonight. It's getting on for 9:30, and I'm not really thinking that we have enough time to go through the survey because people would want to amend things. We can't really amend things. I think Heather and Kieran, you've probably, I wouldn't say diversity, but you've both got views that could be incorporated into that survey. So I'm happy. I don't see that the 4 weeks is going to be a problem. I would worry about the more time we take, the better it will be, because the more people know about it. We mustn't do knee-jerk quick things, because that's when the problems occur. So Sharon, moving on.
I tend to agree with Heather on this, because actually we've all looked at the survey. Surely we can just vote that there's going to be slight amendments, and the survey will then, you know, we could get it out while, you know, the sort of summer months are still with us, and then we could review the results maybe at the next meeting.
Right. Yes, I can't understand why Heather and Kieran can't just work with Nick to reword it, get it out, and let's get on with it.
I mean,
just remove paragraph 3 and remove 3.
Yeah. Surely we're just voting. Surely we're just not. Can we not just vote that the survey is amended by Nicola, Kieran, and Heather, and then because this is why some of the meetings go on so long, because we keep bringing things back to meetings. So could we not just make a decision on this? It's, you know, it's not a kind of life and death survey. You know, it just needs some paragraphs removing.
Nicola, in terms of delegation to an officer, are you happy to work with two, or is in terms of delegation, is it just down to yourself? Sorry to put you on the spot there.
You would be delegating the decision to me as the officer, but you can put in your resolution to take the advice of Heather and Kieran.
Okay. Right. Peter, you're very quiet there, and Rob, you're very quiet there. I'm just trying to gauge whether I'll tell you what we'll do. I'm going to go for a proposal that we wait the 4 weeks, and that that Heather and Kieran get together and present us with a revised survey at the next meeting. That's my proposal. Can I have a second? If this isn't passed, obviously we can have another proposal. That's my proposal. Peter, you're seconding it. All those in favour of that option, can I have a count, please? Kieran, you're okay, so that's 4. Okay, and all against? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that right?
5. No, it's 5.
Okay, so what's the alternative then? Would have to be proposed by Heather.
I propose that we revise the survey and it's sent out so that the results can be discussed at the next meeting.
And that would have to be done, well, if you're going to go for that, then that would go with Kieran, and would have to be delegated to Nicola. Okay, so that's Heather's proposal. Can we have a seconder, please?
Hang on, just...
Sorry.
So how does the proposal get written? Is it stand to Nicola now?
Nicola is producing a survey, taking comments or input from yourselves. Okay. Is that right, Nicola?
Yeah, hang on, I'm just writing.
Sorry.
So I've got revised survey, send it out, and results at next meeting, delegate decision to clerk with advice from Kieran and Heather.
Okay, that's the proposal. Right. Okay, are we a seconder for that? Sharon seconding. Okay. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All those against? Way. Okay, and abstentions? Kieran's abstaining. Okay, does that add up? That's 6-2-1.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Moving swiftly on To
I'm happy
decide,
to move the next item for the next meeting if you wish.
yeah, I was going to move it a bit further than that because I think with Corona, I think we're going to be in sorts of issues with that. But this was about the library one, so bear that in mind. You've got an extra month to think. Well, sorry, I propose that we discuss that one at the next meeting. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Heather, you're going to second that one? Okay. All those in favour that we delay that item to the next meeting? Everybody? Okay. Is that Kieran? Are you want to?
Kieran, are you?
Yeah. Rob, are you having to delay that one? Fine. Okay. Are you happy with that, Nicola?
Yeah.
Delay that one. Okay. Discuss and decide upon whether to encourage the village to lobby the Cambridgeshire County Council in order for an experimental traffic order regulation to be made, B1040, for a 6-month period in line with the government legislation. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did see a bit of press at the weekend about this being used inappropriately by the Transport Minister. Or sorry, no, he wasn't using it, but his comments were being used inappropriately by the Transport Minister. Is that the same point where it was meant that he felt that certain things had been done that didn't benefit anybody? Was that the case? Or am I leading you there? Right. Okay. Well, that's a discussion topic, whether we lobby CCC for this action, which would be to remove lorries.
Just do it.
Okay, that's helpful, Anne.
Yep.
Heather?
Yes, so I saw Ian Bates on the news talking about Stories Way and saying there's going to be a permanent traffic ban for through traffic. So I looked it up and discovered that the government were giving money to county councils for all sorts of issues, one of which is to do lorry bans through villages or through roads. I contacted Ian Bates and Ian Bates said, oh, we know about it, but we're concentrating on market towns like St Neots, St Ives and Huntingdon. I've read through all the documentation and there's nothing that says it has to be on market towns. What it has to be is a response to coronavirus to encourage people to walk or cycle instead of using their cars. So I've been in touch with Ian Bates again, and tomorrow a paper is being presented to the County Council with some suggestions in the light of the coronavirus report. A group of County Council officers have written a documentation, and I've written to them as a person, not as a councillor, to say, could the B1040 be considered, because I don't believe that Cambridgeshire have used the no lorry route in any of their proposed plans. The papers are going to be produced tomorrow, and we then have 7 days before the meeting, which Ian Bates is chairing, to decide as to which plans are going to be agreed or not agreed. So until we've seen the paper, we don't really know if my suggestion has gone forward or not. Whether it has or not, we know who's going to be on the council, and we know that we can lobby them and the officers to get some support for reacting to having the B1040 without heavy good vehicles for 24 hours a day, because people want to cycle and walk along that route and access a circular route going either through Ellsworth or going down to Papworth and beyond. But the proposal has got to be as a result of coronavirus. Cambridgeshire have said it's 18 months, the government has said it's a 6 months plan. So I don't know who to believe, but I'm going with Cambridgeshire because they say 18 months. That's what I know.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Just to stop me getting too concerned, you say you've written to CCC with a request? A request
for the B1040 to be considered as a no lorry area.
Yeah. Can you reassure me that that was done under
by me? Yes, with no mention of the councillor whatsoever.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Just to sort of clarify the
yes.
rules engagement. Okay, Peter, was your hand up or?
I was just wondering if the paper's being produced tomorrow for a meeting on the 15th of September, should we, as Parish Council, write tomorrow to the County Council saying we fully support the comments made by a resident, asking you to include the B1040 in discussion of experimental traffic orders at your meeting on the 15th of September.
That would be lovely.
Well said.
That's a suggestion.
I think you also have the opportunity of speaking at the meeting a week on Tuesday, just as we have open forums at the start of ours, the parish council could elect somebody to say that at the start of the meeting a week on Tuesday. Which would presumably be like a 3-minute slot like we normally have, so it'd be succinct, yes. I mean, can anybody sort of see any negatives of this? I mean, I've got several concerns, one of which is we might lose the only friend we've got in the haulage company who does seem to respect a slow speed through the village. And also, I don't know, if we were cycling down there, you still got cars going past at a speed, which makes it just as dangerous, or perhaps a bit less dangerous than lorries going past. And as Heather, I mean, I don't really know how much cycling would be done in terms of the economy. Most of it would be social cycling, and yet we're putting lorries to somewhere else because of social cycling. But I mean, these are just sort of suggestions. Are they?
Just on your comment about the one friend we have, they've always made it very clear that as long as the same rules apply to everybody, they're happy.
It's true, they have. Yes, I agree. Okay. Anybody wish to say anything? I mean, Peter made a proposal there, and a sort of general nodding of heads.
Yeah.
Okay. So the proposal is that, I mean, it would fall on Nicola, wouldn't it? Are you available tomorrow, Nicola, to write such an email?
Yep.
Okay. So Peter, do you want to just run past your proposal again?
Righty. That was 5 minutes ago. I've forgotten. I'm old and decrepit.
Yeah, well,
I think that the Hilton Parish Council writes to Cambridgeshire County Council saying that we understand a parishioner has written supporting the B1040 to be included in an experimental traffic order banning 24-hour ban on HGV vehicles through the village. We would like to make sure that that is included on the agenda and in their papers for the meeting of the 15th of September. And I think that's a Tuesday, isn't it?
It's tomorrow. It's 12 o'clock tomorrow.
Well, that's when the document's got to be in, but the meeting is a week later, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the 15th. And you can say, if you want, I'll be happy to say that at the meeting on behalf of the parish council.
What, you will?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
On the 15th, I'm quite happy to do that.
Okay.
Well done. Well done.
I've done it at many, I've spoken on behalf of the parish council at many meetings about traffic with highways and the planning inspectorate. I'm quite happy to say those words at the meeting on the 15th of September.
Okay. Nicola, have you recorded most of what Peter said?
Luckily, I'm recording the meeting because now he talks far too fast.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, if we all heard enough of what Peter said, that's the proposal. Okay, a seconder, please.
Everyone wanted to say something.
Sorry?
I am. There's a corollary to ask parishioners to write as well, because they say how many letters and petitions they have received at the start of each meeting.
Yeah, but that's the second thing, is we're not going to get people to write tomorrow, are we?
No.
So
they need to write before a week on Tuesday.
We have to do it in a stage, but until it gets on the paper, we can't do it. So that would be the second point of the proposal. So bearing in mind Peter's comments, can I have a seconder for his proposal, please? Heather's seconding it. All those in favour, raise your hands. Are we all happy? Good. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. And so then moving on to the lobbying of whoever. I mean, we can provide the contacts, can't we? So they would need to be in, as you say, the day before the meeting, which would be the 14th. 14th Monday. Yeah. So that's the. Sorry, Peter.
Could I suggest you ask parishioners to get it in by the Sunday?
Yeah.
So that they've got them on Monday morning when they get into work.
What? Not even Friday? You mean aim to get them in?
Well, you could do Friday, but I thought you'd allow people the weekend to do them.
Okay. Well, I wasn't too sure whether you had some kind of plan that everyone sent it at a certain time.
No. Just
as long as they were in by Sunday night.
And can we ask Nicola to send an email out on the email chain and put it on Facebook and on the Parish Council website?
Well, that would be a part of the proposal, yes, because obviously otherwise people won't know. Sharon, does that address your comment or? Oh, hello, mute.
Mute.
Sorry, that's what I was going to add. It needs to go on Facebook, really, and on the website, so that with a link to maybe sending their comments in.
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah. I I'm just trying to think how much help we give, whether we actually, presumably, could we put down the copy of the email that we send, or could we get someone to write what we're doing? Now, Nicola, that would have to be down to you, wouldn't it, as delegation officer?
Yeah.
Presumably, are you okay to do that sort of heading?
Can we provide a template email on the website?
I wouldn't say too much, because if everyone does the same thing, I think we just need to get everyone to send it in. Okay, that's a proposal that we get people to lobby the council. Sorry, are you happy to? Are you seconding, Heather?
No, I was going to say, and could we leaflet drop Houghton Road, because it affects them most of all, and they may well not pick it up on other sources.
Ooh, now
I'm happy to leaflet drop.
We'll need to allocate some funds for that one. Are we? Okay, so we can include it in the same thing, can't we?
Yeah.
So the proposal would be, Andy, you're waving like a waving person.
Yeah, as I said at the start, I'd be very happy to. I've got 350 emails on my list, and obviously the community website as well. That we'd hit all opportunities for this. So again, if we can agree on the wording, we could do a template, as Heather said, get that to me ASAP, and I can get it out tomorrow.
Okay. Well, we'll ask Nicola to send out exactly what she sent out. So it's on the same website. It's on our website.
And it must be as a response to coronavirus and fitness.
Okay. Right. A lot falls on you, Nicola. Are you happy with what I'm waffling about?
Yep, I think so.
Good. Okay. Well, get back to us if there's a problem. So that's the proposal, that we advertise via social media in the appropriate manner, advising or requesting that people of Hilton do lobby their councillors in time for the meeting on Tuesday. Recommend that they get it out into the right place on Sunday. Can I have a seconder for that, please?
Sorry, Graham, are you doing the leaflet drop as a second resolution?
No, and part of that IT would also include a leaflet drop along Potton Road. So there will be costs there, wouldn't there? Mm-hmm. But people have volunteers, so hopefully we can get some help there. Yeah, so there would be a minimal cost for the stationery. Did someone speak then?
Sorry, just saying it's Potton Road only that you're leaflet dropping.
Yeah, I think so, because they're the ones most affected. Otherwise, it becomes a big issue on top of other things we're doing. Can I have a seconder for all that? I can't repeat it, but I'm sure. Yeah, okay. Heather's seconding that. All that in favour that we do that kind of leaflet drop for lobbying? We're going to go for that. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much. To discuss and decide whether, item number 58. Discuss and decide to comment on the consultation regarding the HDC draft statement of licensing policy. Now, Sharon and Nicola can probably advise us on that, but this is a case of the policy is up for renewal after its 3 years. I believe there haven't been any problems in our experiences with getting a license, so my proposal would be that we either abstain, don't say anything, or say it works fine at the moment. Sharon, are you aware of any problems with the licensing?
No, no.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the proposal, unless anyone wants to discuss at length, I would just propose that we just send back saying that the current system seems to work. We've had no complaints, or working fine, or what do you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Working fine.
Working fine.
Working fine. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, we don't need any changes.
Yeah, perhaps Nicola, if you can make a better statement than that, but basically it's working fine. So that's the proposal we send back. Can I have a seconder, please, for that one? A general statement. Sharon seconding. Great, thank you. All in favour? Raise your hands. Rob, are you happy with that? Yep, fine. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's the consultation. Right. Item 57. To discuss and decide upon the response to the Ministry of Housing committees and local government planning consultation. Now, these were the 4 pages, the 110 documents that I'm sure you've all 110 pages of documents that you all read. I've got a proposal here that we would delegate this to the planning committee. We need to get the response in by towards the end of September.
You've got a few different dates, Graham. You've got the NELC one, which I don't think do need to respond to, but they're due at the 16th and 17th of September. The two that I think we should respond to are the white paper, and we've got till the 29th of November for that one. But you're quite right. The other one, the planning policy one, that's the response is in by the end of September.
Yeah. Now the NALC thing presumably is in response to the white paper, isn't it? Yeah.
So these are a list of questions that NALC are going to respond to on behalf of the various councillors. So
yes,
councils, I should say.
So I mean,
that's my understanding of it. Aaron read it through this afternoon, but
I mean, 16th of September is next Wednesday.
Yeah,
which is a bit tight. I mean, are you able to sort of knock a draft up? I'm just picking on you there, haha, because you're saying too much. You're showing too much knowledge.
From looking at it, I don't think we as Parish Council have to reply to the two NELC ones. We can do if we like, but I don't think it's very technical, and I think it's just not worth the effort. The important one is the white paper, and we've got the 29th of November for that.
November?
Yeah, it's 12 weeks of consultation starting from the 6th.
Oh, I wonder why NALC's is so much earlier then.
I don't know, probably because I think they're just sent to us as a
member of.
But there's no expectation that we as a parish council would respond to that.
Oh, okay. So does that make it then that we could, if we agreed that we don't respond to NALC? I mean, let's face it, this is a very detailed document, I think.
But the one we do have to, which is the closest one, is the first document on the list, which is the changes to planning policy that we have got to the 31st of September.
So is that a NALC one then?
No.
There were 3 NALCs, weren't there? There were 3 NALCs and 1 white paper.
Yeah.
So the one that's called, white paper is clear enough. There's one called PC12 and the other called PC10.
Yeah.
They're the 2 I don't think we need to respond to. Then the other one, which is a Ministry of Housing document, current changes to the current planning system, that's the one we need to respond to. And we've got to do that by the Tuesday, the 1st of October.
Okay, so what's PC11? Is that related to the white paper then? Because it says white paper.
PC11.
Yeah.
I haven't got a file called PC11 on supporting docs.
Okay. Right. Well, let's take your proposal that the one we respond to is the white paper with a closing date of the 1st of October.
2 we respond to.
Sorry?
There's 2 we need to respond to out of the 4.
Yeah, and are they all late September?
No.
Tuesday the 1st of October, 29th of November.
Okay, so the proposal then is if we had do you think, I'm just putting you on the spot, could you knock up a draft within the next, say, 2 or 3 weeks that we could have a meeting, the planning committee, that could discuss both papers?
Yes.
Or would we do it in 2-stage effect? We do the one that had to be done in by September, or by 1st of October. We do that one, and then we could discuss the other one at a parish council meeting.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense. The other one, as it's changes to the current planning system, that could be done by the planning committee, which can be called any time. But the other one could go through proper council.
Yes. Okay. Anne, you had your hand up.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay. Well, let's take it as a 2-stage approach then. So we'll do the one that has to be done quickest, or in the near future, provided Kieran's happy to do a draft. Are you?
Well, unless anybody else wants to do it.
Does anybody else want to read the documents and come up with a draft that is scrutinised by the planning committee? So we'll go for that with the intention that the planning committee would authorise the draft and make any changes or whatever, and get that sent out. Hopefully we may even get a planning application, so it would be a double meeting. But the idea is that we would have a meeting sometime towards the end of September, just for the planning committee to discuss the draft letter in response to the white paper. That's the proposal. Can I have a seconder, please? Anyone seconding it? Anne seconding it? Okay. All in favour of that approach? Can we have a show of hands? Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. And then the other one, we'll do a similar thing, but it will be brought to council, so we don't need to approve that. I wouldn't say, Nicola, do we?
You could vote to put it onto the next meeting.
Just run me past that again, Kieran. When's the next one? Is it beginning of November? The second one?
29th of November.
So we could have it on the November meeting, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, the proposal is then that we bring the second one back to as a draft response, which would be discussed at the November meeting. Kind of a seconder for that, please. Looking around, Ian's reluctantly putting his hand up. Okay, all in favour of that approach? We discuss it in November. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Good. Okay.
Graham.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm going to have to disappear now. Apologies, but
okay.
Go.
I'm just thinking this. Yeah, fine. Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's anything too drastic. I'm not going to go through the financial stuff. So yeah. All right. Okay.
Thanks,
okay.
Everybody.
Understood. Yeah. Thank you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Discuss and so item 58. Huntingdon District Dog Council Public Spaces Protection Order. Again, not having a dog, I'm not aware of any problems, but I would suggest that we just respond by saying we're not aware of any problems, so no changes, please. Sharon, how's your dog behaving? Does it approve of these regulations?
Yeah, he's always on a lead, actually.
Oh,
I think I don't think we've got an issue in the village with people having, dangerous dogs off leads, actually. That's why my dog's always on lead.
Okay, so the proposal is that we send a response saying that we don't think changes are necessary, we're happy as it is. Can I have a seconder to that, please? Oh, yeah, Heather seconding. Thank you very much. All in favour of that response or that idea? Yeah, Ian, yep. Peter, wake up.
Sorry, I need to go back to the date on the previous one, because I think it's 6th of August for 12 weeks, which is the very beginning of November.
Okay, well, if that's the case, I'll use artistic license and bring it forward by a month.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for tip off. Okay, so the dog one we've done. To discuss and so item number 69. Discuss and decide whether to send representatives to the Police and Crime Commissioner's Parish Council briefing on the 10th of November. Now, this is a virtual meeting via Teams, as I understand it, when the Commissioner will be talking to us. I didn't read how much notice we need to give the man. So, I mean, I would have thought that we could probably bear it in mind.
There's nothing in the email to say there's a deadline.
No. So, bear it in mind. We're talking of 10th of November, so we needn't actually come up with a name until November.
I'm happy to do it.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So Heather's happy to. Yeah, fine. Great. Thank you. Do I need to vote on that, Nicola, you think?
Please.
Please. Okay. All those in favour of sending Heather to the Police Commissioner's chat. Peter, are you seconding or are you?
Oh, yeah, I've second voting all.
Yeah, okay. So all in favour of sending Heather, raise your
hand. I vote for myself.
Yes, of course you can. Yeah, we're a bit embarrassed otherwise. Okay, so Heather's destined for that one. Thank you very much. Right, now, again, this is one I proposed to bump. You've seen the financial reports, so they are in there. But bearing in mind what time it is, I'm going to suggest that we just record them as having received them. Can I have a seconder for that approach, please? Proposal that we
nothing controversial about them, is there?
Well, I wouldn't think so. They're produced every whatever.
We just vote for them if we've read them?
Well, we just vote that we've had them. I think we should really, at some point, certainly every sort of 3 months, go through it and at least have it as an item. It's not really good practice just to sort of say we've received them and then go on. But it's kind of quite handy sometimes to have it as a squeeze item. It's certainly in this particular case.
Looking at it, there's only a couple of things where like more than 50% through the year and less than 50% through the budget. Apart from 2 items, don't think there's anything concerning.
Okay. Okay. So based on that, are we happy to propose that we just note them as received? That's
on the
proposal.
basis that they will be discussed next month.
They're produced every month, and so yes, they will be.
Because we haven't discussed them for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, we have bumped them a few times, haven't we?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, at the next meeting when they're there, if I try and bump them again, you say no, okay? that will be democracy in action.
Yeah.
But proposal for this time is that we just note them as received. Can I have a seconder for that, please? So you Peter, you said you were happy to second it on the basis.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All those in favour of bumping on this particular moment? Yes.
Yep.
Rob? Yeah. Fine. Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Now, next one, which is, why is that fallen off my? Oh no, sorry. It's page 3. That's why. These are the accounts to be received and approved. Again, you've all seen them. Quite a large list, but I suppose this is 2 months worth of stuff.
Yeah.
Anybody wish to comment or just get them all signed off? Anything worthy of comment from anybody? Just going through them. Okay, it's got the VAT payment in there that was mentioned. Yeah. Okay, well, you've all remained very quiet. Thank you very much. I'm going to propose that those are all approved. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Kieran seconding. All in favour that we pay them all? Okay, Ian, are you happy?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And so moving on. Oh, this is the one where someone says, moving on to item 72, councillors items. Oh, I've just got a few. Heather, I'm going to go in the order at which you're appearing on my screen. Heather, shaking your head? No, thank you. Peter?
No.
No. Sharon?
Yes, sorry, it's just a quick one. I just wonder whether we could, I was too late this month to put the pavilion on the agenda, but I just wonder whether we could relook at the group of councillors that are going to be involved in the pavilion renovation, because at the moment I can't justify enough time, unfortunately, because of work commitments. And Sarah Partridge has stood down from the PC, so I just feel it needs a bit of new life, you know, a new sort of subcommittee and a new leader on the subcommittee before the planning permission runs out. So, which I'm well aware of, because we haven't managed to get any funding yet for it either. So I just would urge councillors to have a think about who would like to step onto the pavilion subcommittee.
Okay, good point. Yeah, have a think about that. All councillors, please, for next month. Brilliant. Okay, Laura, if you've got something, you're on mute, by the way. No. Okay, Ian.
No, thank you.
Okay, Kieran. Okay, Rob. Fine. Okay, me? No. Okay, well, thank you very much. I think this is a Zoom record, isn't it? 2.5 hours. Thanks for bearing with us. And we'll see you all at the next Parish Council meeting, but the planning committee will be meeting before then. So thank you very much. See you soon.
Okay, well done. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye.